So I'm going to start this up. This is Joan Conover of Seven Seas Cruising Association, and we are going to be having a webinar about Gowrie and the Jackline program they have. We are going to have a discussion. We have 23, 24 people coming in, so you're beginning to build. We'll wait for a moment to let everyone come in, and we'll continue from there. I have Scott Sussex here. He is the Gowrie representative of Jackline that is going to be talking to us now. And we have Rob Varnell, Marine Manager. And let me give you a description of the background of Scott. Scott's an underwriter and yacht insurance producer at the Gowrie Group, and that's a division of Risk Strategies. Scott has over 20 years experience in the yacht insurance market and is an underwriter with the Jackline Cruising Program team. And with that, I'll go over a little bit of administration here. And then we will let Scott start the program. First of all, you will see a question and answer button. If you have questions and answers, please write the answers in Q&A and we will answer them live after Scott finishes talking. He's going to go over what many of you have received as letters in the mail if you had Jackline, or if you're interested in Jackline. This also gives you an opportunity to ask questions. And at this point, I will turn it over to you, Scott. And this is Joan Conover, SSCA, and I will be standing by to help with questions or anything happening with the event. I'm hoping someone will tell me they can hear us clearly.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Great. Hi, I'm Scott Stusek. I'm with the Gowrie Group. Been working with them for a number of years, inclusive of this Markel's Jackline extended cruising program that many use and many have known about for over a decade, from what my understanding. There's going to be some changes, so we're kind of want to reach out because there's been a lot of misinformation put out there, or trepidation that the program's just going completely away and then we don't have any options for you. So going forward, I'd like to say that Markel is they are no longer offering the Jackline policy in its current form. Instead, for global cruisers, liveaboard sailors, Markel will be offering their Helmsman yacht policy. And then in addition to that base Helmsman yacht policy, which has been in existence for 20 odd years, you'll now be able to get an extended navigation endorsement. And that allows for the broad navigational limits to fit very similar or almost identically, but maybe even a little more customizable than you were able to enjoy with the Jackline program, which is nice. It's a nice way to continue on with the program. They're dedicated to keeping on with the program, this extended cruising, and so we're happy that whilst we're moving on from the Jackline, we're having this program is going to be much more automated, and it's going to be easier to manage on both Markel's side, Gowrie side, and anybody else involved with the servicing of these policies. The change from the Jackline to the Helmsman benefits cruisers in many ways, including better standard policy coverages. That would be the coverages that are in your policy jacket. They're different, so they're better. They're more yacht oriented as opposed to cruising oriented, so that you get a lot of bells and whistles that you didn't quite get in some of the wording and some of the sections of the Jackline policy. Improve customer service options, continued access to marine experts at Markel, and of risk strategies. Now, about Markel, a lot of people don't know or may not know anything about the company, but they're dedicated to insuring marine, and they've been in business over 40 plus years, and 20 of which they've been writing this extended cruising type of business, and they're looking forward to decades more. They're admitted carrier, so it's U.S. paper. It's not surplus lines. So you have that protection as you have some recourse through insurance commissioners and what have you if there's a dispute. And that's something you don't get in the surplus lines market or the Lloyd's of London type markets, that type of thing. Their claim team understand the circumstances, the claim managers, an avid boater, examiners with marine backgrounds, a marine surveyor, ASA instructor, officer of the U.S. Coast Guard Reserve. They're all boaters, and they've been boaters for many, many, many years. I've known them for over 20 years, and they're, to me, they're a solid yacht company, and now they're a solid yacht company that's going to be able to extend the cruising like we've been able to have with Jackline. Coverages, agreed value, just what we had before. Most of the losses, most losses are paid on a replacement cost basis. That's the standard in the yacht industry, and not so much in the surplus lines industry. Coverages can be tailored in many different ways, meaning the cruising grounds and the times and in areas for which you want to go. So if you have a standard navigation and you want to go an extra 40 miles north of a certain point that's not on standard nav, then maybe we can customize the policy to do such through these endorsements, through their endorsements. And for those of you that are current Jackline clients, we anticipate a pretty smooth transition for the current Jackline customers. And we're going to start, I guess we're going to start that. Rob, do you think, I think it's in June, renewal starting in June, they will get renewal terms in the new program. That's my understanding.
That is correct. Yep.
Yeah.
We'll run it through June, and the Jackline, for people that have a policy after that, that policy will remain in force and in effect until we can convert them to the new one.
Exactly. And but as of about 2 weeks ago, we're starting to quote and distribute quotes in the new system under the new program. And so that seems to be working out okay. I've had a couple that I've had in Jackline that were waiting for their renewals to start with Jackline, and that Jackline policy quote had expired by several months, and so those are now required to go into the new system in which we have. And the numbers and terms and everything are largely the same. It looks really good. The underwriting seems to be the same. They're staying very solid on what their requirements are for the program, what types of boats and what type of people that they allow into the program. And so we don't see much change going forward. So far that's what's going on. So I do have a little thing to read here that was produced by Gowrie's office, not necessarily Markel's, but it's what Jackline Insurance Program clients can expect next. So that's for a view that have Jackline policies. For Jackline policies expiring June 15th and beyond, the following new process steps will go into effect. In keeping with insurance regulations, we're required to provide you with a non-renewal notice or non-renewal communication about your Jackline policy. So don't go crazy that you're going to get that, because you have to get that. That's insurance law. We have to give you that. And then, but be assured that we're going to be trying to replace that policy with the new policy. So then you will receive this non-renewal notice about 45 days notice, 45 days prior to your renewal date. Your account manager, usually it's Rachel. If those that Jackline know Rachel, she pretty much runs the show at the Gowrie end. She'll reach out to you in advance, help you secure your replacement coverage, and in most cases, we'll be able to offer you coverage through this Markel Extended Cruising Program. And if it won't, for whatever reason, every situation stiffens, we may have other options, but we would discuss that with you well in advance so everybody knows where they stand. So that's pretty much what's truthfully happening. So anything you've heard other than that is not true. We're pushing forward under these particular terms. And so I'm happy to take any questions, and Rob is as well, regarding this. I'll take the questions and I'll defer to Rob, I guess, if something's like that.
So Scott, do you want questions now or do you have more to discuss?
Well, pretty much, if I can discuss anything that you like about any aspect of the insurance market, I'll make a comment on that right now. But this is more of a good opportunity for people to reach out to somebody that's doing not just yacht insurance, but this extended navigation, has some knowledge about the extended market and what's going on in the surplus lines. So with that, I'll just basically say that the last 2 years, I've given I've talked at some of at the GAM, the SCA GAM in Baltimore area, and none a lot's changed. Basically, the market has shrunk down for this extended type cruising. I'll try to keep this targeted to this group, um, and the prices are up, terms are tighter, underwriting guidelines are not being, let's say, proliferated at all. They aren't moving towards a heavy growth scenario. Most of these carriers, they're just looking and picking and choosing a lot of what they're taking for this type of coverage. So you have experience issues that generally most carriers um, require. Um, for the most part, myself, I'm able to write with a plethora of companies, both domestic and abroad. And I would say that the underwriting guidelines for the domestics is, if you qualify for company A, you're probably going to qualify for company B, and if you qualify for company B, you're probably going to qualify for maybe the Jackline if you have some extended offshore cruising and or blue water experience. So namely, a couple years ownership of a similar vessel is very important. That's what the carriers like to see. A great sailing resume is always good. We always like that. But, one of the big things about the underwriting side of it is there's a lot of people out there that can afford to buy one of these boats that is capable of this kind of cruising. The dilemma is, do they really know, if they haven't owned one before, how much it costs to insure it, maintain it, slip it, um, outfit it, and then keep a ongoing maintenance program so that the boat doesn't become into disarray. In the past, we found that oftentimes that is not the case. They buy this boat, they use it for 3 years, it's going into a maintenance window, and they get rid of it. And in the meantime, there could be claims attributable to some of those maintenance items and that type of thing. So it's kind of, the U.S. carriers are generally that way. They're going to want to see some form of ownership, loss history that's good, not a bunch of losses. And then on the flip side of that, you look at the European insurers, and some of those, they'd like that, like the same thing, prior ownership, but they look more at the sizes, types of boat experience that you've had in your ship logs and your offshore nautical offshore miles that you've attributed. If you're buying a boat in Europe and you think you're going to sail it back and you have no blue water experience, they're not going to do that. But what they will do is they'll consider doing that with the appropriate crew. And the crew should have resumes that show that they've had blue water passages similar to that voyage that they're intending. I think when it comes to the new Markel extended cruising program, as it was with Jackline, that's was always the goal, was to have knowledgeable, experienced crew or owners of yachts that wanted to sail without 5 crew on board their boats. Mom and pop, let's go to the Caribbean, spend the winter there, and that type of thing. And they had the experience. They've done those passages before, either as crew on the Caribbean 1500 or the Salty Dog Rally. They know what it's like out at sea, and that's something we look for in the resumes for this program. The other issue that has come up, and I was talking to Joan about it earlier, is this lithium battery issue. And so lithium batteries have made great strides in the last several years. ABYC has actually set up their a proper standard for it. And so they're interested in that. But the results have not been long yet. So just in the last couple of years, insurers that are afraid of those lithium batteries and the potential total losses that could occur. They've been taking what I call baby steps, and some insurers, they don't care about it at all. Other insurers that care about it, they do. They're taking baby steps. So the good news is, and I was talking to Joan earlier about it, is that with Jackline, for an example, 3 years ago we could write boats $125,000 and less. That minimizes any total loss disaster. A year ago we were doing, or yeah, 2 years ago we were doing $250,000 and less. Okay, so that opened it up a lot. As long as there are the appropriate batteries installed in in a professional manner to the ABYC spec, we could do that. We could find a way to do that. And then last year we've got that for installs, retrofits. We have that up to $500,000 yachts and below, and offer up to $500,000 liability. So an aggregate of about $1 million. And the other new thing is that those that are buying much newer boats, a lot of them are coming through with Life PO4 factory installed batteries, and we're able to consider risks that are up to $1 million with up to $1 million liability. So making great strides. I'd say even a little bigger than baby steps, but from a sales viewpoint, because that's pretty much what I do as I sell this product. I think it's much more than baby steps. I think we've made great strides. I'm very satisfied with where it's been, and I think with positive results and no losses attributable to proper installations and proper batteries, we'll be able to proliferate even more along those lines.
Now, Scott, this is Joan Conover. I
Yes.
do have several questions. We've got 8 open questions,
Okay.
and I'm going to answer in chronological order. And Ken Ferrari asks, can all current Jackline holders assume we will be offered coverage under the new program? Or do we need to shop backup policies if we won't be transferred? And he says it would be a shame to find out too late we won't transfer to a smoothly transition to a new policy. Yeah.
Right. Well, there's insurance laws that, we're going to give you a non-renewal notice for 45 days before. And it's our goal to have, when you get that, and Rob, tell me if I'm wrong, but the goal is to be able to offer at that time, at the same time, or approximately the same time, an offer in the new extended cruising program. I think that's the goal. So the answer to that question is, can I say with 100% certainty that we guarantee that you're going to get into the new program? No. Can I say with 95% certainty? I'd have to say yeah. So there's just a small portion that we may have to find other options for them. And the example would be, let's say, you've had 2 claims in the last year. One, you hit a day marker. The other one, you ran it onto a reef. Obviously, there's something going on here. No insurance carrier would probably offer you renewal terms if you did that, 2 big losses in a year. And so if that happens, I suspect that Markel would pass on offering a quote. So that would be an example of a scenario that it just doesn't fit. Or, hey, you've had Jackline, you've been doing the Caribbean, you've been doing South Pacific, and now you want to come back and you want to go down to Antarctica. It's not something that we're going to be able to do for anybody at this point in time, as far as I know. And so there's a good possibility, if that's what you wanted to do, that we wouldn't be able to offer terms. We'd have to find something else if that something else was available in the marketplace. I hope that's concise.
Scott, I agree. Pound for pound, comparing the policies together, it would be an extreme exception if we did not offer at least a set of terms.
Right. Exactly.
Now, Scott, I think you mentioned that there'd be a non-renewal notice sent out. Would you remind me of that discussion? That was people June 15th on discussion.
Well, Yeah, for those that renew on June 15th, that's the renewed 45 days before June 15th, they're going to get or even before that, they're going to get a non-renewal notice. And hopefully at that time, when that's being processed, we're also entering all the data. We've already maybe have talked to you, or if we haven't, and we haven't been able to get you because you're cruising, and you get this renewal notice, and you're like, oh my God, you know, we'll have reached out, or you'll reach out to us and say, okay, what's going on? And then we'll be able to say, okay, what are you going to be doing going forward? And we'll be able to customize the policy exactly how you want it. Just like in Jackline, what are you doing this year? Where are you going? Okay, how's that happening? Fine. And then we renew the policy that way. So we'll just build the new policy in the same manner. So if you wanted to go out and shop, that's your prerogative. But there's not a heck of a lot of options. There are no U.S. carriers, first of all, that is doing this type of a program. Second of all, we do have access as an agency to probably 3 carriers that are not admitted surplus lines carriers that if we can't place it for whatever reason, and we have to go to the extended market, we will attempt to do so. And if we're not able to do that, you're going to know pretty soon. The goal is what the goal is. It's try to get you unstressful, seamless transition into the new policy, into the new program. And if we can't do it, we're going to try to help you do it. And if we can't help you do it through our resources, we'll try to direct you. We don't want to leave anybody, not one, if possible, stranded.
So Scott, another feature that highlights with the helmsman policy, and I think it's a huge benefit to the cruising clientele, is once you have that policy, you can sign up for paperless, you can go online and pay your bill. So, from your smartphone or your internet link, you can view all your documents, you can get everything real time in the time zone that you're in. I know everybody loves talking to Rachel, but it would give things to you at your fingertips or your keyboard.
That's an excellent point. I mean, when we've been talking to individual clients about it, because they've been calling us because of rumors and whatnot. We like to also use the term structural changes. That's one of the structural changes. You'll be able to go online, search everything out, make payments direct. It's just less everything in one little spot. If Rachel's on vacation, the world falls apart because pretty much everybody relies on her. A great example is when I go to the boat show and all these, what I say are happy Jackline people come up, because most of you guys are very happy. Why are they happy? Rachel. She's the one that makes them happy. She makes the sausage, so to speak. And and that's good, but it'll take a big burden off of her for those types of things. She can do more structural things, like policy changes of navigation, adding tenders or subtracting tenders and these types of things, as opposed to payment of premium and getting a copy of the policy, that type of thing.
Scott, thank you. And the questions are building. We're up to 12 now.
Great.
Ron Risden, I hope I pronounced that right, Ron, says, is my Jackline policy in force until it expires in August?
Yeah. It would be. Right, Rob?
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you have a Jackline policy and it doesn't expire until November, you're going to still have that Jackline, the very same policy until the renewal. And the renewals are basically going to be going through. I think the last policy that I wrote was, like the 15th of February 2024. So those people will have that policy until 2025.
Scott, thank you for that. Now, Beth Vandigen has another question, and she says, I'm confused. For those of us who are not Jackline policyholders, what policy options are available for, say, the Eastern Caribbean, Bahamas to Grenada?
It'll be basically what's going to happen is you're going to get a Markel Helmsman yacht policy, which covers whatever the base navigation would be. Okay, so you start out and let's just say you're in the Chesapeake Bay, and you tend to go to, mid-Atlantic or the Northeast. So let's say we give you full East Coast, from Maine to Key West. Okay, that's your base navigation. You can do anything you want in there. The standard Markel policy does that. In fact, you wouldn't even, if you had that policy, you would not even ask for an extended cruising endorsement because you aren't going any further than the Bahamas. Now, when you want to go outside of the cruising area, that's the base area on the policy, you can ask for an extended navigation questionnaire. So the Caribbean areas that you just mentioned, that would be an endorsement, and there'd be an additional premium associated with the endorsement in terms of the endorsement. And that the premium and the terms are based on the underwriting that happens at Markel regarding what they feel they'd like to do, and that could be based on a number of things, such as your experience and your the type of boat you have, whether you have a recent survey or not, what's the status of your rigging, these types of things. These are all underwriting things that the carriers look at when they're assessing a risk and pricing a risk. So basically, instead of having the Jackline policy jacket, you'll have a Markel policy yacht policy jacket, which is really good, solid wording that protects you. Okay, and on top of that, you'll have a simple endorsement. Now, when you're done with that cruise, let's say you just did it for 1 year, let's say you did it for 2 years, and now you come back and you no longer are going to be in the Caribbean, at least for a couple years. Now the endorsement just falls off, it expires, and you still have your base policy. You don't have to go shopping for a less expensive policy because you have your Markel policy. You don't have to get a new survey because you're going to switch carriers, which could happen. And so that's another structural thing that's going to be beneficial to the client that we really didn't have right now.
Thank you very much, Scott. Ken Ferrari again has a question. What are some situations that suggest a policy won't transfer to the new program? You may have already answered that, but
well, yeah, what I said, a couple different claims, navigation regions that are on the. I'm assuming he's a current client, so I think he was. So we have a navigation exclusion list. There's countries and areas that, for political reasons and war and civil insurrection, that we don't allow you to go into. And let's say now you want to go. We'd say no, and then you'd have to make a decision of what you wanted to do to get cruising into those areas. A very good example right now is Israel. I mean, some years Israel carriers were letting people go in there all the time. They generally say 2 weeks, good to go. Here, $200, whatever it is. Okay. And then all of a sudden it's like some weird stuff's going on there. No longer offering that, at least for now. Same thing with like Libya or Morocco. Some of these countries are on that list, and you have that list as part of your policy, and the list does change, but the current list hasn't changed in a couple of years. Okay, so based on the assessment, when we discuss, because we always questionnaire you, for an example, each year, at least Rachel sends out a questionnaire. Where are you going? What would you like to do? And then we would build a policy around it. If we identify you're going into one of these areas, we'll have to have a talk about it. And so that would be a reason, if we just know that no matter what, you're going to go to Israel today or in a couple of months, we may say, we're not going to be able to offer you renewal terms because that's where you're going. That's kind of how I see it. Rob, does that sound?
Okay,
Yeah, absolutely. Unless there's a significant change in risk, I don't see that there would necessarily be any major scenarios that would prevent somebody from at least getting a quote.
One thing that I could tell you is that let's say you have I'll just pick something, Halberg Rossi 40, and it's a year 2000 boat, and you have AGM batteries in it. And then you went and you bought off the shelf at West Marine some lithium ion batteries, and you put them in there. And you're sailing along. And then we ask you that question on your renewal, and you have to answer that question. We ask the question, do you have lithium batteries? And then we talk about it. And if it's not to the standard that's acceptable, like the ABYC standard, and or U.S. manufacturer, U.S. Based company as the manufacturer, we would probably not offer renewal. Is my understanding.
Scott, since you brought that up on lithium, your requirements for lithium batteries is U.S. batteries from a U.S. company, and also, I believe, installed professionally by ABYC installer. Is that correct?
That is general. That's correct. That's the general rule of thumb. If they were done in certain circumstances, if the batteries are the correct batteries, sometimes, in the course of the marine survey that's required, we'd have them also look at and make sure that installation was to that standard. Or we would say, hey, this is a little bit outside of the guidelines. We'd be able to identify that from a survey. We might want to just have you get an ABYC electrician to come in and write a report on the fact that it was installed correctly.
Now, that was what I was going to ask, if you had it installed between surveys. So that report's important.
Well, it may be important if it's outside of guidelines. It's at our
Okay.
it's at the company's discretion to say, yes, we'll accept that, or no, you didn't have these done. You had these done in Martinique by such and such boatyard. The batteries are fine. The system looks fine, but it's outside of the United States, and we don't know what that standard is. So depending on what the picture looks like on the actual marine survey, in that particular case, we might say we're not going to do it, or we'll do it, but you need to get back to the United States, get an ABYC certified marine electrician to certify that this is everything was done correctly. The proper battery management systems, controllers, alternators, whatever needs to be, whatever the standard currently is.
Thank you for that. Now, Gary Golden asks, will the Helmsman program now start covering catamarans? I think there's a lot of people interested in that.
I'm not here to talk about generally the Helmsman system or program. It's my understanding that the Helmsman is not going to start writing catamarans unless it's in the extended cruising program. Rob?
That's correct. And with the extended cruising endorsement, we'll contemplate catamaran.
Right.
So not cats. Okay.
Not cats in the base Helmsman program. So again, getting back to the structure is you're going to have a Markel American Insurance Company policy, which is a great yacht policy. Generally, no catamarans. Generally, United States with some sorties into to some parts of Mexico and the Bahamas. But other than that, no Caribbean. They've never done that. This is how they do that. You get that policy, then you get the endorsement to move on to that. And so they're still going to not do catamarans, and they don't do lithium either in the except to certain guidelines in the Markel Helmsman program. So if you have a catamaran and you're going to be going cruising and you're going to buy this cruising endorsement on top of the Helmsman, then yes, we can accommodate that depending on setup. In the setup meaning what kind of boat, what value of boat, what your experience level is, what the lithium battery situation might be. These types of things are all taken into consideration.
Thank you, Scott. We have Ron again. Ron Risden says, how soon can I find out if it will be offered a new policy through Markel?
You'll have to call us and, call Rachel, see when your renewal is, and we can do a quick quick look at it and say, hey, this looks like something we're gonna be able to offer terms on. With each day that goes by going forward, we're gonna have a better feel for what's fitting, what's might not be fitting. And remember, at the onset of this conversation, we envision, 95 to 99% of people may turn out to be 100% at any given time, will be offered terms, some kind of terms, very similar to what they had in the new program.
Okay, thank you for that. Tom Kintz asks, I currently have a trimming insured with Jackline. Will the new program insure us?
You currently have a what?
He's typed it trimming, TRIMMING.
Trimaran, you mean?
Maybe that's what he means. Can you add to that question? Let's see. That was Tom Kent. Can you add a question to the Q&A? What you mean by trimming? Do you mean a trimaran? That's for Tom Kent. And I think he just did. Trimaran, yes.
Okay. Well, we haven't really talked about that, but it's my understanding that if he's a Jackline client in good standing, we'll give him some kind of terms. Rob, you think?
Yep. If he's an existing client, we certainly would. And I think as Scott mentioned, with our underwriting expertise that we have, for the right client in the right situation, we may be able to even make exceptions at times.
Right. For new business, maybe going forward.
Thank you
If
for
you're
that.
currently insured with us, you should be good. You should be good. Enjoy your boat, and we'll take it from there.
So Stephanie Councilman asks, as a current Jackline customer, will we have to obtain a new survey to qualify for the helmsman policy? We have a 2-year-old survey. Will that qualify?
Yes, you're already in the program, and unless you're making a transoceanic passage, in which case we'll look at that survey in the exact situation. A survey 2 years old and less is going to work in any event. Okay, so let's say your survey was 4 years old, we still might offer you, most likely offer you terms. But if you were going to do a trans-Pacific to Australia, we'd say, well, you probably should have the boat surveyed before, and so those might be part of the terms for blue water ocean passages. That policy also, these policies also have a component because of what it is. It's a cruising program, um, and Markel's philosophy in general, from what I can gather, that sailboats rigging, people need to have rigging inspections every couple of years and or replace their rigging to the manufacturer's guidelines. 10-year-old, 15-year-old rigging is not something that very many people should be or want to be doing transocean passages. So when you get into the big passages, these blue water passages, that's when we kind of scrutinize a little more about, do we want to survey? Do we need a new rig inspection? When was the last rig inspection? And that's all part of the underwriting process. And there's no simple answer, general answer for that. It's specific to you.
Thank you for that, Scott. Richard Delphos, apologize for pronouncing your name probably wrong. He asks, will there be any changes to vessel age?
We haven't talked about that at all. I mean, I don't have any issues with how Markel is handling vessel age. They're looking at the boat and the operator. If you have a solid boat that's 35, 40 years old, and it's up to the task, so it's the right size, it's maintained and upgraded appropriately, they've been very very good about that, as opposed to other carriers that just say, boom, 30 years old, we're done. So and especially in this cruising program, they're willing to look at it. The survey tells the tale, and it also tells the tale about how you've been maintaining your boat. So age doesn't seem to be an issue. Rob, does that sound right?
Sorry, I got stuck on mute. No, I think you're absolutely right, Scott. I think, we're going to look at the vessel, and if it's well maintained and fit into standard, then we'll insure the vessel. I think at some point there's going to be a point of diminishing returns, but when you look at the cost of the policy compared to the cost of the vessel, but that's going to be an applicant or policyholder's decision.
Right.
You know, we have David Jade asked almost the same question. Will there be boat age restrictions? Says previously Markel had them at 25 years. So it sounds like that's not.
Not in the Jackline program, and my experience, I've had long-term experience with Markel over the years, with a hiatus of about 8 years when I was an underwriter with another company, and I've never experienced basically 25 years as a ceiling for what they're willing to insure. I think if it's a good boat, it's a good client, and it's suitable and the boat's suitable for the purpose intended and the voyage intended, that they're going to look at it. It has been my experience with Markel.
Okay, well, thank you for that. We have Lee Demarest asking, are we going to need a new survey? We may have answered that, but we might reiterate again.
Each situation is a little different. You may be due for a survey, just generally or otherwise. If you have a 5-year-old survey in the file, most insurance companies are going to want a new survey anyway. And so that might be something that does come up. So, for purposes of this discussion, when your last survey was that you submitted to get the coverage. And if it's outside of 3 years old, it's a very good question you should ask, because depending on where you're going in this policy period, navigationally wise, again, big blue water transoceanic passages, it might be something that is in the cards, that we're going to probably want something like that.
Okay, we kind of have another duplication on age of boat, but I want everyone to have their question answered.
Sure.
Ron Risden again says, is the age of the boat, if it's well surveyed, a factor?
If it surveys well, which would show that it's in excellent or above average condition and suitable for the purpose intended, it's not going to be an issue.
Okay. And then Ken Ferrari says, you mentioned what happens with policies that expire June 15th or before. How do those policies that expire after that date differ?
June 15th and before, if they renew before June 15th, there's no change. You're going to get a Jackline renewal. If it's after, if the actual date is after that, anything after that, you're going to get a new helmsman policy with the extended navigation. Now, the little detail there is 45 days notice before June 15th. That's when those policies that are going to start getting those June 15th policies, 16th, 17th onward, 45 days notice before that, they're going to get the cancellation or the notice of non-renewal. And at that time, we'll either have already talked to you about where you're going, what you're doing, and what we need and what your needs are, and be able to give you a quote in the new program. That's how that works. So I hope that kind of answered the question.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be a learning experience for all of us probably, but it sounds like you're working your way through that. Beth Vandigen says, I have lithium batteries and was dropped by Markel.
Say that one more time.
I have lithium batteries and was dropped by Markel for the lithium batteries.
That could be possible. There was, it's my understanding, there were situations where the batteries were not of acceptable manufacturer, or were not professionally installed by a BYC certified marine electrician or to spec, or they didn't have a appropriate battery management system. The guys at Markel's very claims oriented. They have surveyors that, I think Rob used to be a surveyor and or heavily into claims and whatnot. And so they're all very skilled. And if they identified that situation and we didn't have the documentation, they would do that. So there are the whole impetus behind this lithium battery situation is the proliferation of lithium batteries is, it was in the marketplace. You could go to West Marine and buy them off the shelf and throw them in your boat. People are burning boats up. Um, you could still burn up your boat. You don't have to have lithium batteries, but if you had a lithium water scooter for diving, or you had lithium bikes on your boat that you stowed down below where you went ashore, you could burn the boat up. And, so we aren't restricting that, but a great example, as we were talking earlier before the show here, is that a 124-foot Delta motor yacht in the Bahamas sank, burned to the water line. And what was the cause of the loss? It was a water toy or an e-bike in the lazarette, which is the garage on a mega yacht like that. $10 million, $12 million boat, it's gone. And so those types of things, we see those types of things happening, and with people not telling us that they're putting these batteries in, we can't determine whether they're installed appropriately, whether appropriate scenarios for those batteries, what type they were. Those clients that we sent that questionnaire out and you had it, we researched with them on what the situation was, and we acted accordingly to the guideline that we decided to, or Markel's set up as conditions for lithium batteries. So I apologize for that, but we get a lot of that over the years.
Thank you. That was, it's a problem with lithium, depending on what it's in. And then from Tom Kintz, will Markel write liability-only policy for extended cruising?
We have a mechanism for that, yes. What I will say is the liability-only policies are going to be underwritten the exact same way as if you had a hull, okay? So the lithium battery situation, the survey less than 2 years, 2 years old or less, a loft rig inspection, or evidence of rig and replacement within the last 2 years. Those are general guidelines, because after all, liability is a claim that's covered under liability, and fuel and oil spill, your mass falling on the boat next to it because your rigging was trashed, or suspect. A lot of things can happen that a survey would find. So we still have those guidelines. At the end of the day, yes, it costs a lot less to insure it that way, but the inspections have to be the same.
Okay, good answer. Jim Coe says, can you please share contact details on how and whom to reach out to get a quote on a new extended cruising program?
You can contact me anytime. I have the quote request forms that are kind of specific, that give us enough information to pretty much 99% of the information we need to get a quote from Markel and use this new system, this new database the rating system that we put everything in. And it's they're interactive forms, so you don't even have to print them. If you're on your boat, on a laptop, if you have internet, you can open up the PDF, put in the data, save it, or print to a PDF, send it right back to me. And I'm happy to do it. Joan, I guess at some point, or you can put up how to get in touch with me, or I can do it now, or whatever you
Well,
like.
why don't you put up if you can put up your contact information on the screen. What I will do is we have a list of everyone who signed up, and I will send your email address or your contact information to them via email.
I'm not sure how I'm going to put it up on my screen. Okay. But
tell you what, we'll do that. You can share screen, but let's just do this. I will send out, you'll send me how you want to be contacted, and I will send that to the list that is signed up so that they all have it.
Sure. We just emailed a little while ago, you and I, right. And I have my all my contact information. Yeah, that works just fine.
I'll tell you what, give me a second. Give me a second. Can I do that? No, I can't. No, I'll have to email it out. I don't want to drop the screens down because I'll get messed up.
You can all just either Google the Gowrie Group and just call the number GOWRIE.com. Or you can, my direct line to my desk, I'll just tell it to you. You can write it down. It's 410-364-7706. And Scott with 2 T's, S as in Stusek, at Gowrie.com, GOWRIE.com. And I usually respond within a couple hours. So.
Okay. And got a chat to everybody. And I will send that. Let me see if I can send this to everybody. I'm sending a chat message out. I'm hoping this goes. So hopefully you'll see that, but if you can't, what I will do is email that same information to everyone. I have one more question.
That looks good. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Scott, you act as an agent for other insurance companies or just for Jackline Helmsman, or do you have other policies that you handle?
I have 6 other domestic carriers, and then I have access to surplus lines through our in-house brokerage, but I only use them as a last resort because I think that if you're going to spend the money for quality insurance, you should you should get relief under the policy should you have an event. And I don't have a lot of faith in those, but if that's the last resort, that's the last resort. We'll try to facilitate that. So the answer is yes, of course. You know, a lot of these companies, several of these companies that are out there that are really good, excellent companies, very much good policy wordings, just like Markel's Helmsman. They do some of the same stuff, but they don't do any of the extended navigations. And so there's a time for extended nav and there's a time for just how you use your boat, you know, over a couple of years. And then if you're gearing up for a big trip or a transatlantic or something like that, we try to position you so that you can at least get into the Jackline program. The ideal scenario is that if you're planning on something next fall or the year after and you're looking for insurance now, we can put you with Markel now in the Helmsman. You get to know the system and how it works, and it's just go ahead and endorse the policy when you're ready to leave, subject to, you know, up-to-date inspections. So yes, we have I have 3 main companies that I use other than Markel.
Okay, and do other agents also sell Markel, or is that a
Other agents do. I don't know, Rob could tell you, but I'm assuming they probably have over 200 agents out there selling the Markel Helmsman product at this point.
That's a lot of people. So I have one more last question, it looks like. I have a Markel policy already. How do I get the new extended coverage?
It's my understanding how you would get that is you'd contact your current Markel agent and ask him for it. And then tell him this is what you want to do, and he can get in touch. He can go into the Helmsman system. Another beauty of this system is that you just go in, he can pull up a extended nav endorsement, choose a navigation range, and then hit refer it to the underwriters, and then he can start a dialogue with the underwriters to satisfy you know, the client's wishes to try to get him where he wants to be.
I've got one more question. And if anyone wants to talk, I think we could open it up at the end here. If they raise their hand, I could enter them. Do you expect any dramatic price hikes from Richard DeFoss again?
No, and the reason I don't is I think a lot of companies have made their price moves. You know, for several years there weren't many price moves, and then now we've seen every single carrier make a price move as of last summer or last year. And so it seems pretty stable. And like I said, I had multiple Jackline quoted policies that I did in like December or November. I met them at the boat show, but they aren't taking off, and they don't renew or they aren't taking off until around now. So I was forced to go ahead. They expired, so I was forced to put them in the new system and and um, and add the extended cruising endorsement. And pretty much within $5 or $6 is where we ended up, and without coaching. In other words, the rates are the same, but you're never going to get it. You're rarely going to get it perfect to the penny. But sometimes it was a little less, and a couple other times it was like $8 more or $7 more. So I'm not seeing that right now. Um, the loss ratio, which is always a concern of insurers, not so much the insureds, has been good in the program. So that means the results are pretty good. So that means the underwriting's really good. So with whatever pricing we have now, I think there's a good chance that it could remain solid for some time, at least through the year.
Well, thank you. It looks like we're questioned out here. Rob, did you have any thoughts before we end the presentation? And the same for you, Scott.
No, I just appreciate you guys facilitating this, inviting me to participate and help support Scott. But I'm really excited about this program. We've seen a ton of really good quotes from Scott already. And I think it's going to take the cruising market and give the cruisers a product that they're going to be able to build loyalty both with their agent and with their carrier.
Yeah, I would like to add with that is that, yeah, while I like new business and taking it from other agents that don't have access to this, you as a client and an insured should work with somebody that you're comfortable with. And if they have access to Markel, you know, that's good. That's good for you. And that's good continuity. Um, and people are comfortable with who they've been for some time. And if they aren't, great, I'm happy to work with you, or you can go to another Markel agent and get this done. But I think that it's important. There's other discussions out there about what's available. I think there's been some newsletters, some people. I think Gary Golden wrote something about some of the state of the market, um, and others have as well. Meaning the non-admitted surplus lines carriers. It's like it's a wild west. It's buyers beware. You could pay a lot of money, as much or more than the Jackline policy, and they let you down at the end of the day. And they use all kinds of forms and ways to get out of paying claims, or they never had any intention in the first place. So the key is that this program, as was Jackline, it's a U.S. based carrier. Um, again, there is recourse through the insurance commissioners for within the states for which the policies get issued, and there's certain laws and rules that are really, really consumer oriented, and you don't get that. With not admitted or surplus lines carriers and some of these Lloyd's of London, there's a place for them for sure. Um, we can't do everything, but this 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 program is something that is U.S. based. It's up and proven. It works, and now we're just trying to evolve it into a more automated system. Should serve a lot of people better. Does open it up to some other brokers. Too bad for us, but on the one hand, I have enough experience with it where it could go pretty smooth. If you were looking for a new agent, I'd be happy to help out and determine whether you'll fit in the program really quickly, and then walk you through getting the necessary information to put the quote together. And I thank you for your time tonight. It was great.
Yeah, thank you, Scott, and thank you, Rob. I think that we might come up with another webinar maybe on how to understand or read your policy. I think that might be kind of important for some people. But I want to thank you for this. Thank the attendees for listening. Thank you very much. And do you have any questions for us?
What do you got going on in the Northeast region? Do you have any get-togethers between now and July?
Well, we just might. We're looking at doing end of May get together for boats at we think Maryland Yacht Club. Frank doesn't have it on the calendar yet, and then end of June because we're thinking gathering in the Chesapeake and then going north up the C&D Canal and into the northeast
Kind of a
might be
rendezvous.
attractive.
Yeah.
Do a run.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I ask. I mean, generally, this time of year through June, I'm pretty available to just show up and hang out and meet people and talk about it and read their. Let's say you don't have a Jackline policy, I can walk you through any questions you might have on your current policy because I have several carriers. Chances are you're with one of them, or if you're with Jackline and Markel, I'll be able to answer questions directly about that. Maybe even strategize of for planning purposes in the future. What are you going to need to do to put yourself in a position to do what you want to do, which is go where you want to go. So those things, I'm happy to attend those. Just need a couple weeks notice. That's all.
Okay, and we will be at the Annapolis Spring Boat Show, so there'll be a
Oh.
group there as well.
Yeah, I'll stop in, hang out. I could spend some time there. We're not having a booth there this year for whatever reason. I forget if we couldn't get a spot this year or what it was. It's pretty small. I can't imagine not getting a spot, but nonetheless, I'll be walking the show anyway, and I can stop in and talk to y'all and maybe try to come up with a time that I can just hang there for a couple hours and just answer questions, talk to your people coming through, whatever is required. I'm happy to do it.
Well, thank you very much, Scott and Rob, and thank you, Frank, for sitting in. I appreciate that. And with that, I don't see any more questions. I hear my dog howling, so I'm going to.
We made an hour. That's pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah. Who knew?
Thank you very